what I want to do now is let's go back to the code, and I'm going to just walk through some of the stuff, explain what some of it is. So it's basically just JavaScript. At the beginning, the very first part is which other libraries are being included that it can use. So right now it's using some Alexa Ask SDK, which is Software Development Kit core functionality. Now, if we look down at the bottom, that's kind of where it starts. So right here are all of your different handlers, right? Different ways that responses or requests can be handled. You've got your launch request handler, your hello world intent handler, your help intent handler, cancel and stop intent, fallback, session ended, intent reflector, and then an error handler. And then it uses this custom user agent, which I don't really know anything about that. So each one of these should be a function listed up above. So here's your error handler, right? And so on and so forth. So let's go back up now. And so they're all listed here. So your very first one is your launch request handler. Now, the first thing it's going to do is check, can I handle this request that has come in? So you have the handler input, and can I handle it? And it's going to check, is the request type of the request coming in a launch request? If it is, then yes. And then this is the function, what it's going to do to actually handle that request. So you're going to set a variable for your text of what you respond back with, and then you return a response that you build, and then you say what you want to speak, if there's going to be a reprompt, and then you get the response back and just return it. For some of the other ones, let's go look through some of those. So your hello world intent, the request type's got to be an intent request, and then the intent name has got to be hello world intent. Okay. For your help, it's an intent request and it's a help intent and a default, Amazon default intent. For your cancel and stop, if the request type is an intent request, and then your intent name is either a cancel intent or a stop intent. And you see the parentheses here, that's this one or this one. And then the two lines like that, that means or, if you're not familiar with JavaScript. While you're doing this stuff, you might want to also look up simple JavaScript syntax or tutorial for some of the basics. Because if you want to do your own thing, you're going to need to know that. So for the cancel one, we're going to speak out goodbye. And then so on and so forth. It just keeps kind of going along the same lines. So what we're going to want to do is modify some of these things and tweak it. So let's go back and let's look at our build on the user space side. And let's look at our intents. So we had one intent called lookup fire, right? So that's the one we're going to want to look at. And then there's also the launch intent, right? But let's change our hello world intent to lookup fire. And the name is lookup fire, okay? And then we're going to want to change it. So we can copy this variable name and change it down here. Instead of hello world, we're going to call it lookup fire intent handler. And let's go back up. Okay, the other thing is we don't necessarily want a separate thing for the launch request. We want it all to be together. So let's say so let's put this in parentheses right here. And then let's do another set of parentheses around this whole thing. Right there, because we want to use this as well. So this, so now what we're saying is if it's a launch request or it's an intent request with the intent name of lookup fire intent, we can run into this function. So now we don't even need this function at all, right? So let's keep this prompt here, and let's remove this so we don't need it anymore. But let's change this so we know that we're here and we know that something's changed. So let's say, welcome to fire test. Okay. Now let's go down, and you'll notice the color is slightly different here. That means something's different about it, but we don't need it anymore. And we just have our launch, or sorry, our lookup, lookup fire intent handler, and it can handle the launch request or a lookup fire intent. Welcome to fire test. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And we notice we have a changed commit now. And let's say combined launch and lookup fire intents. And let's stage this file and let's commit it. Okay, now we can go ahead and deploy it. And over here, as soon as the deploying is ready, we can switch over to test and give it a shot. And we can try a couple different things. Let's go back to our lookup fire. So, is there a fire close by? Or where is the smoke coming from? Kind of like that one. Okay, our build succeeded. Let's go back to test. And let's start off with the basic one, open fire test.
Sorry, I had trouble doing what you asked. Please try again.
Okay, let me find out what's going wrong, and I will get right back into this. Okay, so I figured out what was going wrong. Took a little bit, but if you look back over here, what's happening, let's find that where it was coming. So there's this error handle. Sorry, I had trouble doing what you asked. Please try again. Right? There should also be the fallback. Sorry, I don't know about that. Please try again. So which one was it? I had trouble doing what you asked. Please try again. So it's hitting the error handler, right? And then I jumped up, and while I was hovering over looking at this, I noticed it said this was unreachable code. So what's going on here is it doesn't like this being on a different line. I think I've been doing too much coding in other languages and forgot about that. So you can't have it carry over to another line unless there's a specific sort of signal that it does carry over, like to open parentheses, something like that. Again, refreshing up on JavaScript syntax would probably be a good thing. So let's fix this white space. We'll save it. And I'll go here. Let's say fix white space. Stage those commits. And commit it. And then we'll go back over here to deploy skill. And we'll deploy and build. While we're waiting for that, let's jump back over here so we can reset this from build back to test. Okay, our build is successful. Let's switch over to test and open fire test.
Welcome to fire test. I have no idea where the nearest fire is.
Okay, so that's where what we wanted to see. So we've combined our launch request with our intent handler. Oh yeah, we were going to check ask fire test where the smoke is coming from. Let's see if this works.
You just triggered lookup fire.
Okay, that's odd. Okay, I'll have to play around with that and see. Okay, so I looked into this. You just triggered lookup fire. And if you read through, look through the code, you'll see down here, you just triggered, and then the intent name. So this is in here used for helping to test and debug. We don't actually need this because we've already figured out our intents. So let's just get rid of this. And then we'll get rid of it down here at the bottom as well. The intent reflector handler. Get rid of that last comma. And save this. And now we'll go back into here. So remove reflector handler. And let's commit those changes. And we should be able to deploy and build. And then we should be able to do our where is the smoke coming from, and see it properly go into that launch request. Okay, our build is successful. Let's go into test. And what did we say? Open, or no, ask fire test where the smoke is coming from.
Sorry, I had trouble doing what you asked.
Okay, so I looked into this some more and figured out what was going wrong. If you uncheck the device display, as I'm not really concerned about display devices right now, and then you look at the device log for this, you'll see a bunch of debug messages. And if you kind of look through some of these, I know it's a little hard with my small window here, but you can look through and find, so like I saw here, the request is an intent request and the intent name is fire lookup. And then I remembered back in the code, I had the intent name be lookup fire intent. So if we get rid of this intent and save it, that should take care of that issue. And then we should, if we ask it where the smoke's coming from, we should jump into here. So let me say fix intent name. Whoops. Commit that. And then go deploy and build. And I'll probably have a little bit more information on debugging as well later on in this tutorial. Switch over to build, wait for it to be ready. Okay, skill build succeeded. Test. Open test.
Welcome to fire test. I have no idea where the nearest fire is.
Coming from.
Welcome to fire test. I have no idea where the nearest fire is.
Okay, so now you can see both the launch and the lookup fire intents are both going to the same place, and our code is executing properly. The next thing we want to do is, so this is where we want to put all of our code. Now we start the process of, let's first, let's kind of outline what are some of the things we need to do. So first we need to get the user's location, and you use the 2 slashes to signify comments. Then we're going to need to get fire data, and then we're going to need to find the closest fire, and then build our response. Okay, so those are going to be our next steps. First, we'll start with getting the user's location.